Hello there, fish people. Welcome to Drugs on Fish. I just thought I'd do a little video about my biggest tank. This is a 4-foot tank, but it's not your standard tank. It's quite a bit higher than your standard tank, so I think with water volume empty would be theoretically just under 300 liters, but I work at about 250 liters for displacement when I have to calculate putting in, for instance, medication or fertilizer. The tank's been standing here in this position in my lounge for a good, I moved in here in 2005, so for a good 17 years. It's one of these Boyu all-in-one tanks. It used to have a tight-fitting canopy on top until recently. It had three T8 bulbs in them, and that blew a fuse, not just the bulbs in the wiring, so I changed it. But I'm going to leave the hardware for now. Let's just look at what's in the tank. Now, the tank has had many permutations during the years, but it used to have Mupani wood and simply Javafin and Anubias, and about 3 months ago I changed it over to a deep substrate and added a lot of rooted plants. But some fish have been added, but a lot of the original fish are still here, so there's some very old fish in this tank. But there we have a centerpiece, that koi angel. He was part of a pair. I had him for just over a year now. Got him and another one as juveniles. And first the other one fought with him, and then they spawned, ate the eggs before they hatched, and then he started bullying his mate. I'm assuming it's a he. And first I split them, then I moved them into this tank, which is bigger than the one they used to be in. But the fighting started again, and eventually I had to split them again. And here he is now on his own and doing well. He's the tank boss. Talking about a tank boss, that one can also classify. That is an emperor tetra, as you can see. That's a big female. But there's a male here as well. There's a single male. There he is. And he's got all the females to himself. I think there's about 6 females. Used to be another male, but he killed that male. You would think there's enough space and nooks and crannies, but he went after that other male until he killed them. And then there's one of the really old fish, that black widow or black skirt tetra. There's 2 of them still left. They came with a tank originally. So, not with a tank, but that are some of the original fish I've had in here. So they're well past 10 years old, those 2 black widows. These days are all genetically modified as glowfish. And these are, of course, Colombian tetras with the red fins and the slight blue sheen. And then we've got some rummy noses. They're sort of the canaries in the coal mine. When those noses are no longer red or it starts to fade, you know there's something wrong with your water. And then there's a lot of cardinal tetras in here. They live about 2-3 years max. Not one of the most long-lived fish out there. And you never see the dead ones because they just get gobbled up by the other fish when they die. So slowly the numbers gone down till they were about 7, and I added another 11, so now there's 18 total in this tank. But you can see they don't show tightly like the rummy noses do, but it does make them a lot more bold when they are in numbers. They seem to enjoy that and they show themselves more. If there's only a few, they tend to be more shy. And here's another old fish. They weren't here from the beginning, so they're not more than 10 years old, but they're at least a good almost 4 years old, I'd say. The white cloud mountain minnows. There's a female you see in between the emperor tetra and the cardinal, that little gold stripe. And there's a golden version there at the back as well. There's the gold coloration. Very good beginner's fish. Can go in a small tank. They're not really tropical, so they can go in cool water as well. You don't need a heater for them actually, but they go well in the tropical water too. Very hardy fish, very underrated beginner fish. Also get them in a little group when they show off better. behind that leaf there's a very old Harlequin rasbora, and there's his mates. There's about 3 more. I should get a few more. So there's only about 4 of them left. Also very old, well over 5 years. I don't know exactly, I can't recall when I got them, but they've been here a long time. There's our male emperor tetra. Look at that blue eye and those fins. Some cleanup crew. There's 2 Siamese algae eaters. Brilliant fish for keeping blackbeard algae in check. I always had a little bit of blackbeard algae, but with these guys, no blackbeard algae at all. They quickly give them a week or so and they'll take care of that. Here you can see the white cloud mountain minnow, the normal coloration, and then the gold version as well. And I don't know if you can see sticking out there. You just see the tail and the body sticking out, clinging to the plant. That's an Otocinclus. Also part of a cleanup crew. They don't eat the blackbeard algae. They more take care of the film algae, the small diatom algae. You know, it makes that slimy film. Some brown algae or green diatom algae. The Ottos, they are good for that. There's another one. There he is. Going on to the plants. I've always kept easy plants because it's low tech, and I've changed the aquascape from a mopani wood to there's some elephant skin stone and just some stone from the garden, along with spider wood stacked up to make that little mountain there. It's got this twin island sort of concept. And here is a pleco cave completely covered in Java moss. And there is a single ancestress bristlenose catfish in this tank that I'm trying to find. Not finding him right now. There are a couple of clown loaches too. They tend to come out in feeding time and then they disappear again. They like sitting behind the filter. Oh well. Wanted them to use a pleco cave over wood, but if they like it behind the filter, no harm done. There's a group of 3 or 4, I think, of them, growing very slowly. Eventually they'll need a bigger tank, but they're slow growers. They take a long time to get up to size. So lots of cryptocorynes. I think that's Crispitula or Crispulata, the one with the darker one with the crinkly leaves. I think that's Cryptocorynes spiralis. I'm trying to identify them with Google Lens. I'm not entirely sure, but I get these crypts usually when they're just about to throw out the plants at the local fish store. And I get them for cheap, and they start as tiny plants, and then some grow, some don't. It's a whole hit and miss with the plants. I've put in several things, and some take, some don't, and then I just go with what takes. There's more crypts, and then you see in front of you there's 2 Amazon swords that are stuck in there. They've shed the emerged leaves because they're grown emerged, dry, in a damp environment. So I get rid of those leaves first. At the back there's more of them. You can see the one in the middle has changed. They come with these spear-like leaves. Like you see there, that spotted leaf with the brown spots. That's what they start at, and the one in the middle got more elongated leaves as time went by, got its submerged leaves. So that one at least is going on. And what surprises me is the Vallisneria here, the jungle val, have grown like weeds, spreading their leaves out along the surface, which is very nice. And for some reason my Anubias and crypts were dying in the setup previously here in this tank. For years it was just mopani wood and a thin substrate with nothing in it. Here's a thick substrate with some soil base underneath. And even though they are epiphytes, they just suddenly seem to have revived. All these plantlets sprouting on the dying leaves. And over here you can see there is some Java fern doing very nicely again. And some more on that other island too. Hardware. There's a 300 watt heater, some no-name Chinese brand had it for years, works very well. There's an internal power filter there. Not sure how much water it turns, it's quite strong. The sponge filter, I'm not a guy who likes bubbles, it's very old school, but we have load shedding here, where we sit without electricity for periods of time. And this sponge filter is connected to an AC/DC air pump that keeps going even when the power goes off. So when the power goes off, the power filters stop, but at least I still have a sponge filtration going. So there's always some filtration for these 2.5 hour power breaks that we get here in South Africa. And then besides that, there is a Tidal 55 hang-on back filter, just a sponge it comes with, and some pumice stone matrix in it for biofiltration. And as I've said, it had a snug fitting lid that died on me and I had to replace it. So I put some glass plates on it. I don't like coming home to find a fish on the floor. It's happened to me once or twice. And the light I've got on here is a full spectrum cheapish Chinese light again. It's called a Neo Helios by Aquascaping, I think. Never heard of it before. I had an emergency because the lights in the canopy burned out and I had to make a plan. So I ran to the local fish store and this is what I've got. And as you can see with the plant growth, it works very well. Gets about 9 hours of light does this tank get. So it's, I don't know if it's low light or medium light, probably medium light. I'm not big into the technical specs of lighting, but it gets the result. There's a sort of a water lily, has sprouted some new leaves. We'll see how it goes. But the Java fern, the Anubia, slow as they grow, they're making some new leaves. The Vallisneria, the jungle val, was done very nicely. The Amazon swords are getting on, and these crypts really have quadrupled in size. They're not huge plants, but they've been doing really, really nicely. Maintenance on this tank, every 4 weeks. It takes a while to get it established. With these deep substrates that I have found, and I test the water, I test the nitrate, it does seem to break down your nitrates, which build up a lot slower. When it was simply a normal substrate with no rooted plants, just wood and epiphytes, just a normal, I call it 1.5 inch substrate of epiphytes, nothing in the substrate, nitrates would build up big time, and I would have to change about 40% of the water every week. Whereas now I change that every 4 weeks and the nitrates remain very, very low, under 5 ppm. Fertilization, I put in a couple of squirts of a local all-in-one product that we call Scape Complete. I suppose it's more or less like you in America, you'd get Easy Green from Aquarium Co-op. But this here is, I just refer to it as a big tank. It's a joke to some of you guys. Some of you guys have got monster tanks. But it sits nicely here. You can see my significant other painted the wall, so it really pops. There she is, that's our picture over there. I'm lucky. But I really love this tank. And as you can see, there's my chair. I love sitting by this tank at night and just observing a fish. Really nice planted community tank. Gives me a lot of pleasure. And not nearly as high maintenance as one would think. Doing really, really well. Well, that's that. Let me know what you guys think. I'll do a feeding video at some point. Give it a thumbs up, give the channel a subscribe. And until I see you again, Remember to enjoy fish keeping. That's what it is about. Have a good night.